Hello and welcome back to Run My Arts watercolor tutorial series, and today I'm going to show you how to paint a fancy looking peacock feather. And before I move on to the tutorial, just a quick glance of all my recent tutorials. These are mostly botanical paintings, so if you're a fan of botanical paintings, then do check out these videos. I have left the links in the description, or if you have missed them out being a subscriber, you can go direct to my channel or just check out the links as I mentioned just now. I'll be using the Canson cold press watercolor paper 300 grams per square meter, and the painting size is going to be A6, which is half of this A5 size. And these are some of the brushes that I'm going to use today, mainly the mob style round brush from a Da Vinci Cassagno series. It has a narrow tip. You can use a regular round brush just like what I'm showing over here. And also I'll be using my typical rigger brush as well as a script brush. These are all to produce all those fine lines on the peacock feather that I'm going to paint. And in addition to these two, I am going to use an extra long rigger brush. I'm not sure if it's called rigger brush, but this is like a special series produced by Da Vinci, and I might use a small tool which is toothpick for some scratch effects. So basically today's tutorial is quite simple, and I'm going to be using the wet on dry technique, nothing complicated. And the first color that I'm using is turquoise blue from Schminker. You can use any bright blue that you have. I just thought of making it a bit brighter on the eye of the peacock feather. So I'm using the mob style brush and just lightly painting it, trying to darken it, so get a good thick mix of this paint. Even though we are painting this wet on dry method, so I'm gonna paint it in a form of oval. And the next color, I've decided to use indigo. As you can see here, it's quite dark, so I'm going to use the same method, but of course this indigo goes onto the wet area of the peacock eye painting, which is the blue turquoise that I have applied earlier. So obviously the indigo is being painted on the wet surface of the painting, and I have painted it in a shape based on the reference photos that I have studied through the peacock feather. Not to be very specific or technical about it, but just be casual as long as it looks like the eye of the peacock feather. So the third color that I'm using is May green. It's a very bright looking green, almost like a neon color, but basically it's not from a neon series, but it looks like a neon green. So you can use any bright green of your choice. You can even use sap green, and I'm painting that around the first eye part of the peacock feather, and this is also applied on the dry surface of the paper. So if you notice on a peacock's feather, they usually have these iridescent shades which exhibits a rainbow like tones under certain lighting. So in order to cater for that look, I'm just adding in a little bit of magenta and a little bit of violet as well. So it's up to you if you'd like to add on these two colors. I just thought it would be the most easiest way to create an impression of that iridescent tonal values on the peacock's feather. And once again, I'm applying this wet paint onto the dry paper around the light green paint that I have applied earlier. But if you experience some bleeding of that magenta or violet shade into that green shade of yours, it's okay. I would say this would be a casual incident where you see some mixture of colors or bleeding of colors into each other, and that creates more effect into your painting. Moving on, I am extending that same May green or light green on the outer layer of the magenta and violet paint, just lightly. Basically, this is like a repetitive painting of rings in order to create that eye on the peacock's feather. So done with the eye of the peacock feather, I'm going to move on to paint the feathers, and in order to paint the feathers I'm using a mix of permanent green with a hint of sapphire. You can use burnt umber, so you'll arrive at the very deep dull green, similar to a peacock's feather color. I'm just painting that once again using the wet on dry method. I'm using the same mop style brush, just trying to paint the shape of a feather, the peacock's feather, with a pointy tip on the top. Basically, it's like painting another layer of ring around the colors that I've painted earlier. It's just that there's extra shape to it, as in pointy tip and a stem in the bottom. I think I don't have to explain further on how a peacock feather looks like. So I'm just using the tip of the brush to just roughly create some rake-like shapes, as in you just drag the paint further using the tip in order to achieve these grass-like shapes. And of course, moving further, in order to achieve finer line of the barb on the feather, fine lines of the feather, I'm going to use my rigger brush. And some scratch effect using the toothpick, as I mentioned earlier in this video. Especially if your paint is wet, the scratch effect will be even more effective. Alright, moving on, I'm going to demonstrate with the extra long rigger brush from Da Vinci, also that I've mentioned earlier, but this time I am using the indigo shade just to create some contrast in the feather. And as I paint, you can notice how effortlessly you can achieve that fine lines and in a very flexible manner. So it's a joy if you have any painting that requires a lot of fine lines and in a very flowy manner, as in very curvy lines or wave-like lines, then this brush will definitely do wonders because the bristle is not bouncy, so it goes along with the movement of your hand. And yep, it's quite interesting using this brush. A little bit of paint spatters here and there just to create some extra effect on the painting. Watercolors are never complete without any paint spatters. And once again, I'm trying to create that scratch effect onto those paint spatters using the toothpick. You don't have to do this. It's just I'm trying to experiment here and there. You never know what kind of interesting look you would create on a watercolor painting. So at this point of time, I thought of extending some violet onto the feather barb just to create some contrast, as well as the iridescent values, just like how I did it on the eye of the peacock feather. So if you don't prefer to use violet, it's okay. I just thought of adding on to the contrast look on a peacock's feather, because if you notice, it looks quite magical with its iridescent colors and shimmer. So the peacock feathers are always eye-catching, so which is why I don't mind adding in more colors onto this painting. Alright, in order to make it more eye-catching, I'm going to use a metallic gold paint from Schminke as well. You can use any other watercolor shimmers, probably in a silver tone or any other tone of your choice. I just thought of using gold to finish up this feather painting. And I'm using my scrape brush to apply this gold paint, as it would help me to achieve all those fine lines. So keep applying the fine brush strokes using the metallic watercolor, and if you'd like to use other type of brushes, go ahead. I just thought of just sticking with this scrape brush because I want the gold paint to be in the form of very fine lines instead of large lines, because I don't want that gold effect to look overly dominant. Some gold paint spatters as well, using the same scrape brush. And a little bit of water spritz onto the painting, especially on the gold paint spatters. And since the water spritz has created some mild wetness onto the painting or the paper, as you apply your brush strokes, you can notice extra bleeding of the gold pigment onto those wet areas. So this creates some extra effect onto your painting. And there you go, nice vibrant looking and eye-catchy peacock feather. And as I tilt under this light, I'm sure you'd notice all those gold shimmer. So the gold paint definitely has made a big impact on this entire painting. And if you liked this tutorial, then do hit the like and share button, as well as subscribe to my channel if you haven't. See you in another exciting tutorial. Bye.